in what was oddly dubbed the Battle for Bruce's Heart. The Cleveland Browns drubbed the Bengals yet again 24-3. This days after Cincinnati made Joe Burrow the richest player in the NFL history. He responded with 31 passes for 82 yards. Okay, Coach Mangini is here, fresh from Cleveland. Nick, since he has started slow before, so is this something or nothing?
This is something for 3 reasons. The first reason is this is the second straight game. Cincinnati's talked a lot of trash beforehand, couldn't back it up.
Oh, good take.
Burrowhead, and then you lose. They're elves, even though they've owned you, and then you get held to 3 points. So that's why it's something. Second reason, Cincinnati, the reason it's the Arrowhead Invitational and not the Paycor Field Invitational is not just because that would sound ridiculous, but also because Cincinnati never has a better record than Kansas City. They had golden opportunity here. If those are the 2 best teams in the AFC, the Chiefs stumble on Thursday, you have a chance to get a game up early, and you don't. And the last one is, you guys know how highly I think of Joe Burrow. While the entire league was anointing Josh Allen last year, I was asking for Burrow to get the respect that I thought he had earned. That was a shocking performance. Not by Burrow's standards, by anyone's standards. Last decade, throw the ball 30 times, throw for less than 100 yards. He's now on this list. Andy Dalton against the Browns. Sam Darnold, that's the I'm seeing ghosts game.
Yep.
And now this. And so I looked, I was like, who are the great quarterbacks of the era, like Peyton, Brady, Patrick, none of those guys ever beneath 100 yards on 30-plus attempts. I mean, there it is. Rodgers is the closest, I guess, in a really terrible weather game. Mahomes, of course, is the only one who won the game. That was the password around the world game, if you remember. And then there's Burrow at 82. So for all those, and listen, I'm not going to pull a Brew and abandon the team I picked to make the playoffs weeks into the year. But it's not nothing. I'll tell you that much, Coach. It's definitely something.
Yeah, look, nobody who has $250 million is panicking.
Right about
There's no
that.
reason to panic if you're in that situation. I don't think it's nothing, but I do think there's a lot of asterisks. So the first game of the season is always the toughest. The Browns have consistently had the Bengals from a matchup perspective, similar to the way the Bengals own Kansas City. The Browns own the Browns.
Very true.
The Browns own Cincinnati.
The Browns own Cincinnati. And then you look at it, he didn't have much practice with the group. He's coming off an injury, and this is the first real live action.
Yeah.
And they don't really know how the calf is going to respond. So I'm sure that plays into it as well. And then you've got a new defensive coordinator, a lot of different looks. And I'd say the other part of it is underestimating your opponent. Not just the Bengals, but the league is underestimating how good Cleveland is. I think they're better than people assume that they are. And when you start calling people L's, obviously you're not taking that opponent very seriously. And there's nothing worse in sports than underestimating an opponent.
Yeah, I will say they need to stop talking or kind of disrespecting other teams. Now, I don't think it's something. Last year, I did count them out after they went 0-2. I won't do that this year, all right?
You're going to wait till they're 0-3?
They're going to have to lose a lot more games before I count them out. But this, as Coach said, this was just predictable. I mean, I picked the Browns to beat them.
That was an unbelievable pick, by the way.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. That was
sarcastic.
Yeah.
It was
a great pick. I mean, it's upset alert. You get them right.
Upset alert. Don't be mad because you're
upset alert.
Drew, great job.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But they have, you said they owned them. They've won 9 of their last 11 games against the Bengals. And for some reason, Joe Burrow 1-5 against the Browns. So I don't know what his deal is with Cleveland. But I think, as you said, this was good. I predicted, remember when he got hurt, I said, I think they could start 0-2 with or without Joe Burrow. Because this was a team that has their number. And then they got the Ravens next week, who's obviously a good team.
Sure.
And so even if they start 0-2, I think they'll bounce back. It's good that Burrow came back so he can work the rust off. Last year, it took him 3 weeks to get the rust off and start playing well. So if that's the case, then they should be rolling.
Right, opening game last year threw 4 interceptions, got sacked 7 times, fumbled twice, lost 1, then ended up going 12-2 to finish the year.
The one thing I'll say about week 1 is we never know why we're seeing what we're seeing. Meaning, like, to Coach's point, maybe Cleveland's defense, I know there's a lot of hype around it. They got a new defensive coordinator this year. Maybe we're going to look back and be like, man, Cleveland's defense gave people hell all year. Now, if Cleveland's defense goes out and gets shredded over the next few weeks, then this looks a lot worse. Week 1's weird because we're not sure why we're seeing
Maybe it's the calf. Maybe it's they're not prepared.
Yeah.
It's weird. Meanwhile, in L.A., Tua went crazy. 466 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 to Tyreek, who started his quest for 2,000 yards by getting 215 on 11 catches. Most passing yards week 1 in the Super Bowl era. So, Brew, I know it's week 1. It's always like it's everything too soon. But these are the big 4 here.
Can't win the
Two
Super
of these guys went to the
They're
Super Bowl.
eliminated.
Marino went to the playoffs. 2 had 466 and 3 question marks there. Remember prediction week. I would start off with a little ramble. I said we will be staked to these predictions. You had the
We might have our
Dolphins
first flip-flop.
out of the playoffs. Are you
As
willing to
did
put
Wilds,
the names?
for the record.
Well,
You had the Dolphins and the Niners?
Yeah, as did Wilds.
No, after 1 week, I am not changing
Okay.
my pick. Don't
Okay.
even try. I'm surprised you even put this question on there.
Well, we talked
and
about
I
it.
knew it was coming, but I was like, no, I told you right away, I'm not changing my pick. All right, I will start with this. Tyreek Hill is a cheat code. I think, Coach, he is the most dangerous offensive weapon that's not a quarterback in the league. Like, he reminds me of Randy Moss, obviously not because of the height, but Randy
Game
Moss, you
breaker.
could just throw it up there and he was going to go get it. His speed is like, it's just ridiculous. He's always open because of his speed, and then he runs so well after the catch. Like, he is phenomenal. I mean, honestly, a lot of people are saying Tua is the leader right now for MVP. It's 1 week. It could be Tyreek.
Sure.
I mean, he was ridiculous.
if it was Tyreek, that's an insult to Tua.
No, it's not.
It wouldn't.
It's just looking at the way things went. Now, as far as Tua, because they're apparently on this set, some people think I don't believe in Tua.
Well, you just picked and missed the playoffs.
No, you know
That's
what I
all.
just picked?
What?
Last week.
What?
Can we see it, Dusty?
what are we-
Last week, when look, Dark Horse MVP, this is not doctor.
You have a
This is
behind
not made
car
this afternoon.
and a guy
I
you
had
don't
Tua
believe
number
in.
3.
Yeah, that's
As a
the
dark,
definition
if
of
he
someone you don't
stays
believe in.
healthy,
Okay.
if he stays healthy, he's
All
a
right.
Dark Horse
Can I-
MVP.
But
no, I'm not going
Go
back
ahead.
to my
No,
pick.
bro, I love the way that you have a lot of different irons in the fire.
There's
and you can pull
nuance.
whichever
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Nuance to
Yeah.
it. It's not all black and white. There's shades of gray, and I see them.
I wish that Tyreek would watch some film. He talks about how he only plays Madden. I can't imagine how good he'd be if he studied the DBs, if he did all those other elements, because he's so good now, and his vertical speed is such an issue that you got to play off. So that when you play off, now you create this space. And I had the Dolphins finishing last in the division, and here's my reason. It's not because I don't think that they can win and be very effective with Tua, but I'm just not sure with his injury history and the type of injury that he's going to be able to be there throughout the course of the season. And when you've got concussions like he's had, even though he's worked hard to try to work on falling and all those things, it's so unpredictable as a quarterback. And once you get one, the likelihood of getting another one increases dramatically.
Listen, that's obviously the cloud looming over the Dolphins. But as the only person on this set who picked them to make the playoffs and actually picked them to win the division, I'm not surprised by what I saw. I also, because Coach is out here, I would like to do something I rarely do, which is give some flowers for a coaching move. Mike McDaniel, before the end of the half, saw the Chargers they were in 4th down, we're going to kick a field goal, calls his own timeout with 17 seconds left. They then get the ball with 12 left. They are able to get in field goal range, make the field goal. They win the game by 2 points. But to me, everyone's going to talk about Tua, who was excellent, and Tyreek, who was excellent. Everyone knows that Tua at games can go off. We saw him do it against Baltimore. We all know how great Tyreek is, not to lessen your point, but we're not shocked by it. The Chargers defense is a disaster zone of week 1. They have first-round picks and free agent dollars all over it. They stopped Miami once all game. They had 3 drives that didn't end in points. They did force 2 turnovers and then 1 punt. They allowed 8 yards a play and 16 yards a completion. And then on the flip
you
side,
mentioned the pass interference, field goal at the end of the
it was
first
a
half.
terrible pass interference, and not a terrible call, a terrible play.
Right.
And then at the end of the game, after Miami misses the extra point, the Chargers, they need a field goal just to be able to win the game. They go grounding, sack, meaningless completion, sack. If you're the Chargers trying to not be the same old Chargers, this was a horrifying week 1 because your defense looked as bad as
They've
any
lost
defense
a lot of games like
in football.
this.
Yes.
Dolphins defense look
Staley.
good?
What?
Yeah.
Dolphins defense?
No,
did
but
at the end.
at the end, and the Dolphins don't have a defensive coach spending all their money on defense.
They got a Vic Fangio.
I know, but the head coach is not a defensive coach. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.